Hi, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I am Coach Sherry. I am here at my former high school, Teaneck High School, the castle on the hill. As you can see, that is what the the school was known for. And the crazy thing is, I was out here recording, and I recorded, I don't even know how long, telling some great memories, sharing some great memories. And my phone turned off because it said that my storage was full. So I have to go and clear some things out. But I am here. I know some of you, if you had went to high school with me, may be saying, Sherry, why didn't you tell me you were in town? But this was definitely spontaneous. I'm here picking my daughter up from her internship that she was staying in New York for the summer, and we had planned on going to the Bronx Zoo, but you have to have reservations. So today is Wednesday, and this would have been a perfect day. But apparently, you have to make reservations much sooner. Hi, Sheila. How are you? Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. Um, but at the same time, we went and it was full. It was sold out. The Bronx Zoo was sold out, and the attendant said, "Well, if you want to come on a Wednesday, you need to make your reservations by Monday." And so, of course, we didn't do that because everything has been very spontaneous. So we were close to the George Washington Bridge, and Teaneck is just about what 10 minutes from the George Washington Bridge. So I told my daughter, let's go shopping in Jersey. It's tax free here for shopping all the time, not just on special weekends. And oh, I'm glad you caught my live too, Sheila. Thanks for being here. I'm glad you did. Absolutely. And so then as we're driving, across the George Washington Bridge, I'm like, listen, let's stop in Teaneck. This is my hometown. This is my hometown high school. I haven't been here since the 1980s, literally walking on its campus. I've driven past showing my husband and my kids before, absolutely, but I have not walked this campus since the 1980s. I graduated in 87, and and now here I am. This is so nostalgic for me. This is a very special place. Doesn't it look like a castle? This is where, you know, I don't know if it was an actual castle. I have not looked into the history of it, but this is called the Castle on the Hill. And I'm going to walk around so you can check it out as well. If you hear on the side the noise of the highway, our mascot is actually the highwayman because it is next to Route 4, which leads to the George Washington Bridge. And this is just an interesting high school. So I'm not even sure what else to say because I said a lot when I thought I was recording. Well, I was recording, but when I was recording, I said a lot, and now I can't use any of that. But this is the football field, and it's always nice when you come back home, come back to your alma mater, and you see how it has elevated and has improved. I mean, look at the solar panels that are lined along the field. I think that is awesome. So, right? Doesn't it look like a castle? Beautiful, beautiful high school. And so, have great memories of this field. This bleacher right here, these concrete bleachers were the only bleachers when I attended Teaneck High School. We didn't have those aluminum bleachers, but now they do. But everyone, home and away, guests and home, sat on these concrete bleachers. And I just remember being in the marching band and hating the marching band uniforms. So the next year, I actually became a manager for the football team, and I took the stats for the offense coach. And I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot about the game of football. My brothers played when I was younger, but it taught me a lot. And I so happened to marry someone that plays or played in the NFL. And then when my husband coached, I kept the stats for his team as well. So that definitely was a skill that wasn't one and done. I used it for many years. And I have a real appreciation for anyone that can take stats. But as you can see, solar panels are here. And I've noticed even in the homes, on top of the roofs of the homes that a lot of them also have solar panels. So that's really popular. In Charlotte, that's not a thing. So, not yet anyway. And I'm sure that it saves a lot with their energy bills and such. But I'm gonna walk around so that you all can see. But again, there it goes, the castle on the hill. Mm. So also this field, the night before Thanksgiving, oh, oh, it's open. Hold on. The night before Thanksgiving, we would have a pep rally, which was really a homecoming, because the prep rallies where everyone would come back. You know, people are home from college, they're home to visit family, and they are all welcome to come, well, at least back then, to the pep rally. And it was held in the gym, and it was a big deal because the next day we were playing our rivals. The next day was always Thanksgiving. And after the prep rally, they would have a bonfire. They would build a bonfire right here on the on the track, and it was huge. It was a huge bonfire, and so we would have that. And then in one of the smaller gyms, the auxiliary gym, they would have a party. And so we would have a party till about 11 o'clock at night, and it was just good, clean fun. And then the next day, typically we would play our rival, which was Hackensack High School, and lose for many, many years. I don't even know if they've won yet or how many, but I know it's probably single digits. My mother went to Hackensack High School, and Hackensack has been beating Teaneck since she was in high school back in the day. And but it's all still good fun. You know, it's nice to have that rival, so that when the games are happening, be it football, basketball, track, or whatever, you know, you have that edge. And you know, it's all kindred spirits because I went to church in Hackensack. I actually grew up until I was 6 years old in Hackensack. And so I know a lot of people from Hackensack, and a lot of people from Teaneck and Hackensack intermingle in that way. So it's really good, clean. I don't know how it is today, but back then that's how it was. So you hear the lawnmower, people keeping their lawns up. That's always a good sign. But yeah, we would have our graduations out here on this lawn, and you know the guests would sit on those cement bleachers, and it actually those bleachers hold a lot of people. I have some great memories about those bleachers. So I'm going to take you back up. I know they had some, I don't know if it was football tryouts or preseason practice just before I came in. But everyone seems to be gone now. It's hot today, so I know the football players are happy to leave. Hopefully, they're getting hydrated, getting some good food in their system. Can you hear the highway? So, again, our mascot was the highwayman, and he dressed up, or she, whoever was the mascot in the uniform, they looked like a kind of like a pirate. They would wear a big brim hat, bigger than a cowboy hat, but similar. I don't know. They look like a pirate of sorts. And our colors were blue and white, royal blue and white. And yeah, we have a beautiful basketball court. And my former basketball coach, Coach Curtis March, rest in paradise. The court is actually named after him. I hadn't seen it in person, but I've seen it through pictures, and it's beautiful. Coach Curtis March did some wonderful things for the game of basketball here at Teaneck High School. For many years, he coached the girls' team, and I was fortunate to play under him. And then a few years after I graduated, he coached the boys' team, and he coached them for several years, and they've gotten some great accolades as well. And the girls' team, when I played, we were actually inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame here in Teaneck for all of the great things that we accomplished. as a team and individually. So Coach Curtis March was a mentor to many, and his daughter actually graduated high school with me. And he had a son that was a few years younger. But he was a great mentor because after college, when I started coaching basketball, I could go to him and ask him anything, how to deal with personalities, how to deal with skill levels. And he was always very patient. He wasn't a patient coach necessarily with us all the time, but when, he was mentoring me, and I know he mentored several other former players that became coaches, he was very, very patient. And I just appreciate the knowledge that he shared, the wisdom that he shared, because when you coach a sport, that doesn't just stop right there. Coaching a sport carries over in so many areas of your life. It carries over into you being a parent, into you being in business, and just you dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. Coaching, if you have any coaching skills, they definitely transfer into so many areas. Walking up hills is very challenging, so I'm just trying to keep it together. Because you can see that's why it's called the castle on the hill, because that is an incline going down. And over there, if you see those cars that are parked, that's where the students, back when I was going here, that's where the students used to park. So I've said this before, Teaneck is a very, very special town. And when I say that, and I say it's the best town in the whole United States, people always think I'm just repping for where I grew up. But I mean that with with everything. Teaneck is the first school in this country to integrate its schools without it being court mandated. This school is and definitely was a melting pot. I mean, we had so many different races, cultures, personalities, and everyone was accepted. You would just see every type of student mingling, and everything was very seamless. This is the only high school, the only public high school in this town. There's other schools, but this is the only public high school. And there are two middle schools and several elementary schools. I want to say 7 to 9 elementary schools and two middle schools. So growing up, literally on my block, I didn't go to elementary school with anyone on my block. We all went to different elementary schools. But middle school, it was divided into two different zones. And so everyone in my neighborhood, in my immediate neighborhood, went to the same middle school. And so the middle schools were Benjamin Franklin BF Middle School and Thomas Jefferson Middle School. My side of town, or my area, we went to Benjamin Franklin Middle School. But the interesting thing, when it came to sports, to middle school sports or junior high, back then it was called middle school because it was from 6th to 9th grade. And then when I came to high school, I came in 10th grade, but then they switched it. And when I started 10th grade, the 9th graders came up with us too. So I was never, in high school, I was never a freshman. But when we played sports in 9th grade, the two middle schools collaborated and we had a joint team. So I got to meet players, basketball players, but I had been playing with those girls since the 4th grade. But I got to meet the guys because the boys and the girls teams typically played the same schools. And so I by the time I got to high school, I knew quite a few people, boys and girls. So that was comforting too. And so we all, no matter what middle school you went to, no matter what elementary school you went to, if you went to the public high school, you came to Teaneck High School. So this is the front entrance. School here doesn't start until the Wednesday after Labor Day. So I know everything is closed up. Oh, should I try to walk up these stairs? I'm going to. I just won't be able to talk. So let me just get myself together. I don't know if you can see inside, but let me see. You see the light fixtures? They even look very castle-like. Can you see that? The light fixture. With the crown molding, very sturdy, brick and cement, and some stone on the stairs. Nice places to sit. So I graduated high school in 1987, and then I went off to college in Pennsylvania, Lincoln University, the first HBCU in the country. And I graduated from there in 1991. When I came back, I worked on Wall Street for about 4 years and then got married. And that's when the adventure really started. We moved and lived in LA for a minute, St. Louis, New Orleans, and then we settled in Charlotte. Not settled for, but settled in Charlotte. And you know, the interesting thing, and I tell people, you know, dare to dream because you never know how your dreams will come true. And I remember in high school, I mean, no, in college, saying, I must have read something about North Carolina being up and coming. So, mind you, I was in college from 1987, the fall of 87, until the spring of 1991. And I don't know what it was that I read, but it definitely was saying something about North Carolina. And if any of you know anything about North Carolina, during that time, North Carolina wasn't popping like it is now. You know, everyone was, the Great Migration was to Atlanta and places like that. But I always said I wanted to live in North Carolina. I didn't know where in North Carolina. I hadn't really been to North Carolina. My father's people are from Virginia. My mother's people are from Virginia and South Carolina. So I didn't know, I'm sorry, Virginia and South Carolina, yes. So I didn't know anything really firsthand about North Carolina. But I just always knew when I was in college that I ultimately wanted to end up in North Carolina. And so after my husband was playing at um, with the New Orleans Saints and he was a free agent, and teams started to contact us, you know, contact his agent and us and everything. He went to Charlotte. So it was between Charlotte and at that time the Baltimore Ravens. And I remember it being this kind of bidding war. And I was vying for both really because I have a lot of family and I have a lot of line sisters at the time that lived in Maryland, or it was going to bring us closer up northeast because he's from Long Island, I was from New Jersey, so our families were all up there. And I was like, oh my goodness, if we're in Maryland, that'll be the closest we've ever been to our families. And then with Charlotte, I was like, North Carolina, I always wanted to live in North Carolina. And I mean, I guess Charlotte is as good as any place to live. You know, it's in North Carolina. So what's that like? So I was excited either way, but when we decided to go with Charlotte, the Panthers, I was like, all right, here it is. This was how many years later? It was probably 7 or 8 years later since I had graduated from high school that I hold on. Oh, he's dropping her off. I didn't know. 7 or 8 years later, after I had graduated college, that 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 thought, that dream of living in North Carolina was coming true. And now look at it. Charlotte is booming. It is progressive. It's a place, if you are innovative, if you are creative, if you have business ideas or any ideas, it's definitely a place that's open for all of that. And, it's definitely a place that you can grow and see how your growth is impacting a whole community, a whole city. Vernell is in the building. Hello, how are you? Yes, in North Carolina, the whole state is so beautiful. So you are so right. I mean, from the mountains to the Piedmont to the beaches, everything is so beautiful. So I want to show you this highway, the stairs that we used to climb, walk up and down to get to Route 4 to take the bus. Look, they call this Black Lives Matter way. That's interesting. So we will walk down here. Can you see it? And then there's a bus stop just like to the right of these stairs. And we would just run up and down, or you might have met somebody at a club and he's from New York or she's from New York and they would come meet you after school, whatever the case may be. But that's interesting that they renamed this street Black Lives Matter Way. So I love Teaneck. Teaneck has been good to me, to my family. My parents owned and operated one of their businesses here, and in the next town over, Inglewood, they had 2 locations. But Teaneck still had its challenges. So one thing, this road right here, if I walked to school, so that's another thing in Teaneck, after elementary school, there are no more school buses. You have to get to school the best way you can. And this Teaneck High School is about an hour walk away from my house where I grew up. But this is the street I would come down from walking to school or walking home. And so many of the Black kids that went to Teaneck High School lived on this side of town. And, back then they had what's called, and you all may know what it's called, when they're steering you. They would steer Black families, because Teaneck used to be predominantly a Jewish town. And so when Black families started moving in, they would steer us to a certain side of town. And which is interesting considering, the whole integration and everything that had happened. But that's what happened. So many of us lived on that side, and we would walk. And hi, how are you? When we would go into school, we would go through this door right here. Now the front door is around this corner, but we would go through this door. And where that garbage can is, there used to be a half brick wall that you can kind of sit on. And we used to call this door the Black Door. And it was called the Black Door because, again, most of the students that came through this door, 99% were Black. And so that, years after I graduated, that became a challenge, especially now. And so I find it interesting that they are calling this street now Black Lives Matter Way. And again, Teaneck is a great place. I would never have picked a better place to have grown up. But when my father first went into business, and he even shared it on one of my lives when I interviewed him a couple of years ago, that when he was buying his business from the previous owner, so it was a business that my father worked in, and the owner was retiring, and my father and my mother always wanted to own their own business, and they saved up the money to buy it. The owner was Jewish and told him that this town was not ready for a Black business owner. And so my father had to get a white partner to buy that business. And then several years later, he was able to buy that white partner out and own the business outright by himself. So, you know, that was in the 60s, the late 60s. He bought out his partner in the early 70s, and, the rest is history. But those are still some challenges that have occurred here in Teaneck. It's still a great place. I can't can tell you how good it's been to my family. I just saw her. Where'd she go? Where did she go? I should take my tampon. Forward.